the truth about the heavy emotional burden of being a dark chosen one. Have you ever felt like you were born with a burden too heavy to explain? Like something ancient and mysterious was placed on your shoulders before you even understood what it meant to be alive? I want to talk to yes, you, the one who feels everything too deeply, who walks through life like you're carrying a secret that no one else can see. You might not realize it yet, but you could be what some call a dark chosen one. This isn't about ego, and it's not about superiority. It's about responsibility. It's about carrying a spiritual mission so profound, so complex, that most would crumble under the weight of it. And yet, you're still here. You've probably noticed that your path has been anything but ordinary. Maybe you were born into chaos, or perhaps life taught you pain before it ever gave you love. You've watched others find joy in simple things while you wrestle with questions that seem to unearth the very fabric of reality. Why am I here? Why do I feel the pain of the world as if it were my own? Why do I feel like there's something I'm supposed to do, but I have no idea what it is? These are not casual questions. These are soul-level inquiries, and they indicate that you, whether you asked for it or not, are on a path few are destined to walk.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The emotional burden of being a dark chosen one is not just about sadness or pain, it's about the intensity of awareness. You see things others don't. You feel truths others avoid. You sense the undercurrents of every interaction, every space, every silence. You don't just hear words, you hear the vibrations behind them. And that sensitivity can be overwhelming. It can leave you feeling alienated, like you're living in a world that wasn't built for someone like you. But let me ask you something deeply personal. Have you ever felt like there's a version of you buried beneath the pain? A version that remembers who you truly are, even when you forget? That's the paradox of the dark chosen one. You carry light, but you're born in darkness. You are meant to heal, but you are wounded first. You are here to guide others, but often you feel completely lost yourself. This is not a coincidence. This is initiation. The universe doesn't choose the most confident or the most popular to carry the codes of transformation. It chooses the broken, the silent warriors, the ones who've tasted despair and still choose to get up and face another day. And that's why your pain is sacred. You see, in a world obsessed with comfort, those who are called to walk the spiritual path of depth are often misunderstood. Because you don't live on the surface. You dive, you go deep. You feel the collective grief that others suppress. You weep not just for yourself, but for humanity. And while the world may try to label you as too much or too sensitive, what they can't see is that you're actually processing the karma of generations. You're transmuting ancestral pain. You're breaking patterns that have lasted centuries, and you're doing it quietly, without recognition, without applause. Sometimes the emotional burden manifests as loneliness, not because you're truly alone, but because it's rare to find someone who can meet you where you are. It's not easy to explain your inner world to people who are still terrified of facing their own shadows. So you adapt. You learn to carry your truth in silence. You become a master of masks. You show the world what it needs to see while hiding the storm that brews inside you. But deep down, don't you crave to be seen for who you really are? Don't you long for someone to look at you, not your achievements, not your strength, but you, the raw, sacred, hurting, healing you? I know that weight. I've felt it, I've lived it, And I'm telling you right now, you are not crazy. You are not broken. You are not weak. You are chosen. And the reason it hurts so much is because your soul is expanding into a frequency that this world is only beginning to remember. But here's the hard truth. Being a dark chosen one means you don't get to skip the pain. You transmute it. You don't get to avoid the shadows, you walk through them. And in doing so, you become the bridge, the one who connects the unseen to the seen, the one who walks between worlds. That is why your path is so lonely. That is why your emotions are so intense. That is why you often feel like giving up, because you are transforming not just yourself, but the collective. Now, I want you to take a moment and breathe. Inhale deeply, exhale slowly. Do it again. Let the truth settle in your bones. You are not here to fit in. You are here to remember who you are. You are here to awaken others by first awakening yourself. You are here to walk through the fire and emerge as the embodiment of wisdom, scarred but sovereign. And so the question is not, why me? The question is, what now? Now that you know your pain is sacred, what will you do with it? Will you numb it like the world teaches you to? Will you suppress it, deny it, escape it? Or will you feel it fully? Will you allow it to become your teacher? Will you let it carve wisdom into your soul? Because here's the secret. Your burden is not here to destroy you, it's here to activate you. It's here to burn away the illusions. It's here to remind you that you are not the story you were told. You are not the trauma you inherited. You are not the mask you wear. You are something ancient, something powerful, something eternal. And yes, the road ahead is not easy, but it is real, it is honest, and it will lead you to a version of yourself that is luminous beyond comprehension. You don't need to have all the answers right now. You just need faith, not blind faith, but soul-deep knowing that everything you're experiencing is part of a divine orchestration. So I'll leave you with this question to sit with. What if your deepest pain was actually your soul's proof of purpose? Initiation through darkness, the sacred alchemy of pain into power. There comes a point on this path where the darkness no longer feels like an enemy. It becomes something else, something sacred, something intelligent, something you never expected, a teacher. When you begin to understand this, everything changes. The suffering that once felt like punishment begins to reveal its deeper nature. You start to see that pain was never meant to break you, and not just into awareness, but into remembrance. Because the truth is, you didn't come here to live an easy life. You came here to become something rare. You came here to transform. That transformation, though, doesn't happen in the light. It begins in the dark, in the moments no one sees, in the silence of your room when your mind is screaming but no one hears you, in the nights you lie awake wondering why your heart feels so heavy when all you've ever wanted was peace, in the moments you've questioned your very existence because everything feels too much. That is the crucible. That is the sacred fire meant to melt everything false so that only truth remains. And I know it hurts. It feels like drowning in emotion that has no language, no outlet, no relief. But what if I told you that every tear you've cried is evidence of your spiritual depth? What if I told you that the very pain you're afraid might destroy you is actually chiseling you into something unbreakable? The universe doesn't initiate the weak. It calls the ones who carry ancient codes in their DNA, and those codes are not activated by comfort, they are awakened by contrast. You must first be brought to your knees to remember how to rise from the ashes. And that rising is not a linear process. It's messy, it's chaotic. Sometimes it feels like healing, and other times it feels like falling apart. But both are part of the same divine alchemy. You are being stripped, not to be punished, but to be purified, to be made whole, to be returned to the essence of who you really are beneath the wounds, the conditioning, the expectations, beneath everything. Think about this. Why is it that some of the most powerful spiritual beings on this planet have gone through unimaginable suffering? Why do the healers, the mystics, the prophets, the poets, why do they all have stories bathed in shadows? It's not coincidence. It's design, because you cannot lead others through pain you have not faced. You cannot hold space for transformation if you have not first been transformed. And so your suffering becomes your initiation. Your wounds become temples. Your scars become sacred maps that guide others home. But this is where the challenge deepens. You have to stop running from your pain. You have to turn toward it. Look it in the eye. Ask it what it's here to teach you. Because every emotion, every trigger, every breakdown, it's a message, a key. And when you stop trying to fix yourself and instead start listening to yourself, you begin to unlock a wild, raw, untamed power that was always inside you. The kind of power that can't be taught in books or downloaded in courses. The kind of power that comes only through initiation. And yes, initiation is brutal. It will take from you everything that no longer serves who you are becoming. It will dismantle your identity, your attachments, your illusions. It will test your faith, your resilience, your will to live. But it will also reveal something extraordinary, the eternal part of you, the part that cannot be broken, the part that remembers lifetimes, the part that came here with a mission so vast that the world wasn't ready to receive it. That's why you were hidden, that's why you were forged in solitude, because your light is not ordinary, it is disruptive, it is revolutionary. And for that light to fully emerge, the darkness must first do its work. So what does it look like to alchemize pain into power? It looks like choosing to stay present with your grief instead of numbing it. It looks like breathing through your anxiety and asking what it's trying to protect you from. It looks like tracing your patterns back to their roots and deciding, finally, that the pain ends with you. It looks like forgiving yourself for not knowing better before you did, and then loving yourself enough to do better now. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be honest. You have to be willing to feel, you have to be brave enough to sit in the discomfort long enough for the lesson to reveal itself, because every time you do, you reclaim a piece of your soul. You integrate a fragment of your power. You rise, not as an idea, but as a force. And here's the most beautiful part. When you begin to walk this path with reverence, when you stop seeing your darkness as a curse and start honoring it as the catalyst, it changes everything. You realize that the pain was not in the way, it was the way. It was the portal. It was the sacred invitation to come home to yourself. And in that homecoming, you discover the kind of peace that cannot be disturbed by circumstance, a peace that is not the absence of suffering, but the presence of truth. So I ask you, Not as a guru, not as a teacher, but as a fellow traveler on this path. What if the darkness you fear is actually the doorway to your divinity? The lonely path of power, why the chosen must walk alone before they lead. There is a silence that only the chosen know. It isn't the kind of silence that is peaceful or serene. No, this silence is heavier. It echoes, it stretches across years, across lifetimes, and it wraps itself around your heart in moments when you most crave connection. It's the silence that follows the realization that no one can truly walk this path with you, not the way you must walk it. And that is one of the deepest burdens of the dark chosen one, the necessity of solitude. Not because you are unworthy of love, but because your soul is preparing you to lead, and before you can lead others, you must first learn to lead yourself, through the silence, through the confusion, through the wilderness of your own becoming. It's a sacred irony, isn't it, that the ones who are called to be beacons of light must first know the darkest nights, that the ones who are destined to guide others must first wander without a map. It feels cruel at times. You look around and see others forming connections with ease, building lives, settling into rhythms. Meanwhile, your world keeps shifting. People fall away. Familiar places begin to feel foreign. The things that once brought you joy now feel hollow. And you begin to wonder, is there something wrong with me? But the truth is, there isn't. There's something right with you, so right in fact, that the universe is shaping you with surgical precision. Every loss, every detour, every moment of isolation is an act of divine choreography, meant to strip away the noise so you can finally hear your own soul speak. This path demands that you become intimate with yourself in a way that most people never have to. It asks you to sit with your fears, not just observe them, to hold your shame in your hands and still choose love, to face your grief not as a problem to solve, but as a sacred part of your story. And in doing so, you begin to uncover something rare, resonance, a knowing so deep that it doesn't need validation, a wisdom so ancient it can only be remembered in silence. You begin to understand that loneliness is not a punishment, it is a purification. It removes the distractions. It sharpens your vision. It breaks your heart open so you can feel life in its rawest, most honest form. Let's be honest. Being the dark chosen one is not glamorous. It's not about being admired. It's about being real. It's about holding space for truth even when it's messy. It's about embodying depth in a world addicted to surface. And because of that, many won't understand you. They'll mistake your silence for arrogance. They'll call your depth too much. They'll try to put you in boxes that never fit, and when they can't, they may leave. But their leaving is also part of your liberation, because the ones who are meant to walk beside you, truly walk beside you, will never be afraid of your depth. They will not fear your shadows. They will recognize in you what they've been searching for within themselves. But before those soul-aligned connections arrive, you must first learn to be your own sanctuary. You must become the one you've been waiting for. That's what the loneliness is for. It's not a void, it's a forge. It's where you learn to trust your own voice, to follow your own intuition, to stand firm in your own truth. Because when the time comes for you to truly lead, you won't be able to rely on external validation. You'll need an inner compass that cannot be shaken by other people's opinions or projections. And that compass is being built right now, in the quiet, in the pain, in the solitude. There will be days when you want to give up, when the weight feels unbearable, when you question if you're strong enough to keep going. In those moments, I want you to remember something vital. The loneliness you feel is not evidence that you're lost. It's evidence that you're being found, that you are in the process of remembering who you really are, beneath every role you've played, every mask you've worn. And that process, though it feels like separation, is actually the beginning of union with your soul, with your mission, with the divine. Ask yourself this: what if the very people who are meant to find you are being guided to your light, but first you must uncover it yourself? What if your isolation is not a detour, but a sacred pause, a space where you are being prepared for the magnitude of the energy you are meant to carry? Because the truth is, when you carry light like yours, the universe won't let you build your foundation on anything false. It will remove what is misaligned. It will strip away illusions. It will ask you to walk through fire, but not to harm you, to refine you, to make sure that when you rise rooted, not in fantasy, but in truth. So if you're in that place right now, if you feel alone, misunderstood, invisible, I want you to know you are exactly where you're supposed to be. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. You are not being forgotten. You are being remembered by your own soul. And one day you will look back on this season of solitude and see it for what it truly was, a sacred womb where the old you died and the real you was born. And when that real you emerges, you won't need to chase anyone. Your frequency will speak for itself. Those who are meant to walk with you will feel you. They will find you, and they will thank the gods that you had the courage to walk alone until it was time to walk together. So I leave you with this question: are you willing to be alone long enough to become who you truly are? The final test: reclaiming your throne after the fall. There comes a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when the storm begins to pass. Not because the pain has disappeared, but because you have changed. You've stopped running, you've stopped resisting, you've stopped asking why it had to be you, and instead you begin to ask a different question, a more powerful one. What now? This is the moment when the dark chosen one begins to rise, not as a victim of fate, but as a sovereign of their own becoming. This is the final test, not the chaos itself, but who you choose to become after it. Not the fall, but your decision to reclaim the throne you once forgot belonged to you. You see, no one tells you that being chosen doesn't come with a manual. There's no ceremony, no ribbon-cutting moment when you arrive. Most of it feels like collapse, the breaking down of everything you thought you were, the loss of identities, relationships, dreams. And yet, within that ruinscape, something ancient stirs. A memory, a knowing, a pulse of something deeper than narrative. You begin to feel it in your bones, that you were never meant to fit in, because you came here to lead, but not in the way the world defines leadership. Your leadership is energetic. It's alchemical. It doesn't shout, it transforms. Just your presence begins to awaken something in others. And that is why your initiation was so brutal. Because the strength you now carry couldn't have been forged any other way. Reclaiming your throne is not about ego, it's not about power over others. It's about authority over your own energy. It's about no longer abandoning yourself to be loved. It's about no longer betraying your truth to be accepted. It's about standing tall in the wisdom you earn through fire and silence and surrender. And here's the paradox. The more you reclaim yourself, the less you need to prove anything to anyone. Your power becomes quiet, grounded, unshakable. You stop explaining yourself to those who only want to misunderstand you. You stop waiting for permission to be who you are. You stop asking the world to validate what you already know deeply within your soul. But even in this rising, there is one last temptation, the temptation to shrink again, to go back, to make yourself smaller for the comfort of others, to dim your light so it doesn't blind those still hiding in darkness. That is the final test. Will you betray your truth now that you've remembered it? Will you abandon your throne just because others are uncomfortable with royalty? Or will you stand in it fully, unapologetically, knowing that your light is not a threat? It's a mirror. And yes, some will turn away. Some will call you arrogant, too intense, too different. Let them. They are not your people. Your light is a filter. Let it do its work. Because on the other side of this test is a life that no longer asks you to pretend, a life that reflects who you've become, not who you used to be, relationships that meet you soul to soul, purpose that flows not from pressure, but from alignment, peace that isn't conditional, love that doesn't demand you shrink, and most of all, a you that is whole, not because you've healed every wound, but because you've chosen to live open anyway. So here you are, standing at the edge of everything you've ever known. You've walked through darkness, faced your shadows, survived the silence, and now it is time to return, but not as the one who left. You return as the one who remembers, remembering your worth, your voice, your vision. You don't need saving anymore. You are your own sanctuary now. And before you go, before you step into this new era, I want to ask you one final question, not to burden you, but to awaken you. If you truly believed you were chosen, what would you do differently starting today? Your answer to that question is your next chapter. Welcome home.